Howdy folks, welcome to 20th Century Adventures Artifact of the Week. This week we're going to be looking at a really cool automobile accessory. As we all know, nowadays it's popular to customize your automobile with accessories, and there's a huge market for it. Well, it was the same way 100 years back. Now in the early days of the automobile, it wasn't such a commonly owned product, and it took a little while for things to get going, but by the time the Model T came around, as well as other makes like Chevrolet and Buick that were making cheaper cars, or more affordable cars I should say. Ford, the Model T, we can all agree it was cheap. It was very cheap, that's why it sold. It wasn't necessarily that it was a great car, it was just very cheap. But it did have a lot of advantages over some of the other vehicles of its day, especially in America or places it could go that fancier cars couldn't. But as automobiles became more common for the ordinary person to own, there immediately became a huge market for accessories and customization, and there are hundreds of existing pieces and advertisements that you can look at for every accessory under the sun. You could add all kinds of things to your car 100 years ago, some of which you can't even add today. But some things that we think of as being more modern innovations actually started out in the early days of the automobile. And this is one of those things that we're going to look at. Now, I don't have this restored or installed on anything right now, but this contraption here is a Kellogg air compressor that mounts inside your engine compartment. So nowadays off-roaders use these a lot on Jeeps and four-wheel drive vehicles. They usually mount them in the bumper or something, but it's still, aside from being electric, it's still essentially the same idea. Now this one is run off of the belt, so you would have to add a pulley. You'd have to have this in line. You might have to build a bracket for it, but you'd have to have it in line with your fan belt, and you would have to run a pulley that would fit your fan belt onto this. And then as that turns, it's a little stiff, but as it turns, it pumps a cylinder inside here. And there's a lot of compression on this still. It's not seized up. It will turn. It's just very tight because of all the compression inside there. But that compresses the air, and then you can feed that out from here through a hose to air up your tires. Tires were a little flimsy at that time, and so it was not unusual to burst a tire or get a puncture. There were still quite a few horses on the roads in the early days, and they would lose horseshoe nails or something like that, and you'd have to take your tire off, put a new tube on, or patch the old tube, and then put it all back together, and then you'd have to air it up. So you could use a little hand pump, but most of these cars run on about a 50 to 70 psi pressure inside the tire. So that takes some work to do. And so if you had a big enough car, I wouldn't try to put this on a Model T, because I don't think that it would do a lot of good with the power that it would take away from the Model T. But if you had a bigger horsepower car, you could certainly put one of these on there. I understand that some of them even had a clutch to engage or disengage so that you weren't running the pump all the time. But basically that's what this is. This is for airing up your tires after you've replaced the tube or fixed the tube. So that's our artifact of the week. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'd love it if you share our videos, because that's what keeps us going, is all the great response from you guys. Be sure to give us a comment too. We like that. See you down the road.